And this is why I rebranded Essential Strategies to focus on the college, because everything ties together. And families, they don't know what they don't know.
We struggle with a few things. We struggle with, number one, what is society telling me that we should do? Number two, we struggle with what is my child saying they want to do, whether that may or may not be the best choice, cause of action, whatever, right? And there's a lot of information, and I'm going to be real here that sometimes the school system doesn't always give you the best information that can help. And I said, I need you to understand something. I, as your parent, will always have more of your best interest at heart than the district, than all these other people. And so I'm going to tell you, as parents, you need to be having active conversations with your children. You need to understand some of these factors. And so, like, as your kids are coming into high school and getting ready for college, we need to be preparing not only ourselves, but them for how does this look, right? What are some ways, what are some, like, let's call them cheat codes, right? To help them prepare for success, not only academically, but also from a financial aspect. We need to be thinking about these things all the way through in order to make sure we're making good decisions, not only for our future, but for our kids' future, right? Like, we want both. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified. I am your host, Jacqueline or Jax Crider, and today we have Brian on. He is a financial whiz, all things money, financial planning, financial wellness. So we're super excited to have him on the show today. So welcome, Brian. Tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and why you're excited to be on the show today.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation. I got into college planning kind of as a default. It wasn't something that I was looking to get into, but it was something that became more and more of a pressing topic with my existing clients. I've been in the business since 98. And I was young, 22, just trying to do whatever I can to grab a client base. And I was acquiring a lot of clients that were about 5 years ahead of me. So where I am thinking about getting engaged, they are already married. When I am just getting married, they might be on kid number 2, maybe kid number 3. So if you just do the math and progress down the line, at some point in time, they're like, Brian, my daughter is a sophomore. What are we going to do? Daughter's a junior. Others would be like, holy, he's a senior, she's a senior. What have we done? Are we okay? Do we have enough? I don't know where they're going. And there is just a general sense of lots of anxiety, apprehension, panic. Any descriptive word that elicits an emotion is what they were facing. And so in my review sessions with my clients, you're okay. This is why we did this back then, even though it went against the grain of everything that you read on the internet, because we know everything is true on the internet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. For sure.
And so fast forward to 2019. And I have a very good friend that is a longtime baseball and softball coach, and both of my kids have played underneath him. And I have had a chance to coach underneath him. Long story short, we're just chatting about everything except baseball. Somehow the topic of college came up. And because he's such a close friend, I will not ever try and solicit his business, nor do I want it. Somehow college came up. And we just started chatting like you and I are. And I'm like, there's just so many things that people don't see. We might have even had a bonfire going, maybe a couple adult beverages. And I'm just talking like, they aren't thinking about this and this and this. And then they're overpaying. And then when they do have a bill, they're making the most inefficient choice. And that's using their own money or their own cash flow to pay for this overpriced school in the first place, because they waited until the 11th hour to even start to think about what's going on. And you get the idea. And lots of back and forth over several conversations. And he's like, have you really thought about narrowing down your focus in your practice and what you do? I'm like, I don't know. I really haven't given a thought. Enter COVID in 2020, and that shook everything up. And so for about a year and a half, 2 years, I didn't do anything besides just service my clients. I did not react. I'm one of those people that when you hear didn't react well to COVID, I was one of those as well. Others thrived. I did not. I can tell you that. And so back in 21 and 22, when things started to come back to normal, and my oldest was a senior in high school in 22, okay, this is getting real. And so I'm rolling up my sleeves and I'm doing the research, and there is a ton out there. And it's not hard, Jax, but the volume of information in this college planning
Oh yeah.
sphere, as you know, the volume is,
It's a lot of information for sure.
yes. And it's also product centric. And so I'm going to bash on my own peers for a second. So I got John and Jane coming in here at 2 o'clock. They want to do something for college. They don't ask, how's the kid? How are their grades? Have you done anything in terms of test prep, like a PSAT, PSAT testing? And I think our district had it in eighth grade, plus or minus a year or two. Have you ever heard of CLEP, where you can take college classes online for $75?
Yep,
You know what?
that's right.
Splurge your kid for 150. Buy one where they take it raw. See how they do, and then if you want to spend another $100 on the materials, you can. Because, as I said in college, C's get degrees. And with the CLEP programs, as long as you get a 70%, it's pass or fail. And these classes, coupled with your AP or whatever the programs are in school to get the dual, I'm not very familiar with that, Jax. So anyway, this is where the passion comes out, because I am a detailed individual. I was talking with my mom, who's now 76, and somehow we were talking about how's this going with work and clients and progress. And because I love detail, and you have a law degree, I love to
I
read,
do.
I love to research. And she's like, your preschool teacher said, like, after the first week of class, that you should be an attorney. Because so what's preschool? 4 years of age? Five? I don't even know. It just came out randomly because um, I do have that passion. It's not that I have to be right, because I'm wrong more times than I'm right, but I take the time to do
Just having the
research,
information, right?
having information, read,
Yep,
research.
I
I like
agree.
doing I like doing the things that clients don't like to do, and that comes in handy with the college because it's all about the details.
For sure. Well, first of all, I think it's awesome that you're having deeper conversations, because the podcast, we talk a lot about being intentional. We talk a lot about alignment, right? And I think that as parents specifically, we struggle with a few things. We struggle with number one, what is society telling me that we should do? Number two, we struggle with what is my child saying they want to do, whether that may or may not be the best choice, cause of action, whatever, right? And there's a lot of information. And I'm going to be real here that sometimes the school system doesn't always give you the best information that can help. And I'm going to give you a very specific example. So, I have three adult daughters, and when they were in high school, obviously, you kind of know your kids, and I let every one of them make their own decisions in high school about whether they wanted to take AP classes or they wanted to take dual credit, with like community college stuff, like whatever they wanted to do. But I did definitely give them some information to help them make good decisions. And one of my daughters is not a particularly strong test taker, right? And if you know anything about AP courses, you know that basically how it works is you go for the whole semester and you study all these things a whole year, really. And then you take an AP class and AP test. And if you get a high enough score, then you get to not have to take that class in college. That's how that works. Well, if your child has a lot of test anxiety and struggles with that, that's probably not the best way for them to get some kind of credit. And if they're going to do this hard, difficult thing, in my mind, I wanted to count for something, right? We're not just like doing this just to pat ourselves on the back and say, "Look, I did a hard thing," right? Like we want it to translate into something. And so I encouraged her to look at doing dual credit as opposed to doing AP work, because the dual credit part they could not take away from you. Well, she came back to me and said, "Well, my counselor said that if I take this dual credit class, I could blow my GPA for college." And I was like, "Okay, why did your counselor say this?" Well, because some colleges they transfer in the GPA. And I said, most major universities do not transfer in GPA, just so we're clear, right? Like,
Never heard of that. Yeah.
I have gone to, like, when I was an undergrad, I went to several major universities. Like, I started at one and I finished at another and whatever. And I was like, those two universities didn't even transfer GPAs. Yes, they looked at it for sure, whatever, right? But I was like, the way you know you get credit is by doing the college level course. The AP course, you are not guaranteed that that is going to happen. And so, of course, the counselor convinced her. And by the way, just for those parents listening, the reason the counselor wanted this to be the case is because it meant that the district got more money for her butt to be in the seat.
You
Okay?
beat me by a
Just so you
split
know.
second. Split second.
And so I was like, huh, that seems a little bit interesting that the district has this bent to have her do this or whatever. But that was fine. She decided to listen to the counselor. She didn't want to listen to me. That's fine. I get it. And she's getting to the point where I'm trying to raise her to be an adult, right? So I want her to make ththose active decisions. And so we let her make that call. And sure enough, because she gets bad test anxiety. She didn't get a high enough score in the AP exam. And so she didn't get credit for that. And she was upset. And she came to me later when she went to actual community college to get her associate's degree. That's the path she decided to take. And she said, I really wish I would have listened to you. I wish I would have listened to the counselor. And I said, I need you to understand something. I, as your parent, will always have more of your best interests at heart than the district, than all these other people. And so I'm going to tell you, as parents, you need to be having active conversations with your children in respect to these things. Because like you said, I think, first of all, college is a really big sticker price on it. If you're talking about a regular 4-year university, and they're not getting any kind of scholarships, which we hope they are, they're not getting any kind of, maybe you make too much money, so they're not getting any kind of grants from the government. Now, this is a very large expense. And if we're not having active conversations, either you are going to be footing the bill or they are. And neither one of these things is going to go super well if we're not being intentional about the choice. We're not talking about we blew a couple $100 here. We're talking about tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars of either your money or their money or a combination of both. And last time I checked, this is something that can majorly set you up for success in life or failure if we're not very, very careful.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Let me add on a couple of points there from personal experience. So you talked about the AP. That's huge. And in our district, there is, you can call it peer pressure, or the students are like, well, so-and-so is doing it. I have 2 girls, both GPAs in their high school are equally as close. You're talking about tenths in the hundreds. So the second decimal point is how far they off. Polar opposites in how they learn, because I had them take, have you ever heard, like for you and I, the Colby A index?
I have.
Okay.
Yep.
I've taken it.
I'm the manager.
You're a
That's
manager. I forget what mine is called, but I'm a 10. My oldest, very similar, 8 something. So then I got curious, because my wife and I, it could be college, it could be about anything else, we're just not syncing. I see it clear as day, she doesn't, and vice versa.
For sure.
And so I had my youngest daughter take it. She scores that. And I'm like, dollars to donuts. My wife is going to score like my youngest. And it did.
But yeah, it usually goes that way, that the kids, like, the apples don't really fall very far from the tree when it comes to that, for sure.
Oh, it's huge. Colby, Colby.com Y index, it's less than $50. That is the first thing that I tell every parent. And you know what? Around 8th, 9th grade is when you should do it, and figure out what are their learning styles. How do they learn? Okay. I'm on my 4th or 5th iPhone here. When the first one came in, I open up the box. It looks cool. I'm like, I'm starting to have anxiety. Where are the instructions? I need to read the manual. Where are the instructions? And my youngest daughter's like, oh, beep a doop a doop a doop a doop a doop.
Oh yeah, the kids, by the way, are so much better at that than us. They can
And so, and learning style with the AP. So my oldest studied, got the grade, and is a good test taker and got the credits. My youngest took it. So yeah, her whatever that other GPA is. What is there, a weighted and unweighted or something, something along those lines. So she got the high GPA, but she didn't pass the test. And I'm the path of least. I was the path of least resistance in high school. In college, I was the same way. I had a summer class where if at the end the big part of the grade was speaking, I am not afraid. You drop me anywhere, and I will make friends in 5 minutes. But the rest of my group scared. Guess who did all the work all semester long? They did. All I did was 5 minutes to speak. We all got 4 points. It was great. And so with the AP, what I learned, I don't know if you've had any families share this with you. I just learned this the other day. My oldest transferred from one university to the next university. So when she went from high school to university number one, all the APs were accepted in the credits.
But not the other one? Not the
When you
other university?
transfer to school number two, Jax, there's
They don't all take them.
two things that get me hotter than a hornet. Number one is when you tell me something after the fact when it clearly you knew ahead of time that you could have told me. That's
For
number
sure.
one. And number two, when they try and pass you off as if we don't know what you got. And I just learned that, and I'm like, you have to be kidding. So I have a lot of real world bumps and bruises and real world experiences that I share. But yeah, it's
Yeah, people just have to understand things. Like for instance, like you were making the point about the AP exam that some of them accept, some of them don't, or whatever. So I started out going to University of Oklahoma, OU, and you had to make at least a 4 on the AP calculus exam for it to be accepted. At A&M, conversely, okay, which is actually where I graduated
okay.
college from, Texas A&M, you had to have a 5. Okay. Now, a lot of this is due to the fact that A&M is a very heavy engineering school, probably one of the better ones in the
Mm,
country. And so
gotcha.
they wanted to make sure that you really understood the math before they started putting you and plugging you into the higher level calculus courses. Okay. So there was a reason behind what it is.
Fair. Yeah,
And
fair.
because I started at OU and I got a 4, it allowed it actually to transfer in. But had I started at A&M, I would have had to retake calculus 1 because they would have said, "Oh, your AP score wasn't high enough." And that's why I'm not necessarily anti-AP. I'm just you need to understand some of these factors. And so like as your kids are coming into high school and getting ready for college, we need to be preparing not only ourselves but them for how does this look, right? What are some ways, what are some like let's call them cheat codes, right? To help them prepare for success not only academically, but also from a financial aspect, because there are both components, right? Again, I also didn't want my daughter taking the AP exam because I knew how that was going to make her feel, right? She was going to feel like a failure coming in. And I'm not saying necessarily that you had to protect your kid from everything. There is a certain merit to like dealing with failure and having them learn what that looks like. But on the same token, if I can avoid some of that and help her succeed in other ways, then it a lot of times makes more sense. And so I a lot of times just help people understand that what I want you to do is I don't want you to go out there and just say, okay, well, society said that they need a 4-year degree and these are the best schools. And a lot of times that's the most expensive, right? And they have to go there and I'm like, you need to step back and you need to be having conversations and you need to be looking at your own finances. Like I know that's something that you're doing with your clients actively. And I applaud you because so often in mortgage, what we see is that one of two things. Either number one, we come and we've got people that maybe their parents weren't able to help them or they couldn't help them but so much, like they only helped a little bit, and so now they want to buy a house, they're in their early mid 30s and they're drowning in student loan debt and it's not dischargeable via bankruptcy. A lot of times it is hundreds of thousands of dollars because of IBR, which is the income based repayment program. Oftentimes it's growing in size month over month. And so now, it started as 80K and student loan is 100K. And so it's growing. And it is crippling their ability to qualify to buy a house. And that breaks my heart. Okay. Or thing two, you have the parents and they're struggling to try to figure out how to pay it. Maybe they weren't as diligent about putting money aside or figuring out, what kind of situation and solution we're going to do. And so now we're having to pull money out of their house, which is not necessarily, you and I had a conversation about this before the show, a bad thing on its face. It can be actually a very helpful and useful tool. However, when you're doing it because you have no funds in the back end, you have no retirement funds, you have no whatever, and you're just feeling the societal pressure to pull this money out of your only asset to be able to fund this education that we don't even know if your kid really wants to do what they say they want to do, et cetera, et cetera. That's not a good look either, guys. Like, we need to be thinking about these things all the way through in order to make sure we're making good decisions, not only for our future, but for our kids' future, right? Like, we want both. And it just breaks my heart from the financial aspect. And it's why I get on my soapbox and I will preach until the cows come home, because I just don't want people to make decisions that they didn't understand what the full weight of the decision was, and the things that are potentially going to financially drown them.
That is extremely powerful. A lot to unpack there. And I'm
Usually
glad
that
that
is how it is with me.
that's it. No, it's great because we could be here until 6 o'clock tonight, up until the Tigers game, and then when they blow it against the Guardians. But I'm glad that you brought that up, and I'm glad that other professionals like yourself, you have some real work, real personally, as well as with your children and different styles. You're seeing it with your clients when they're trying to come in. And this is why I rebranded Essential Strategies to focus on the college, because everything ties together. And families, they don't know what they don't know. So going back
Exactly.
like 10 minutes ago, when you're talking about why your daughter was being encouraged or pushed to do the AP, I didn't want to come off cocky or presumptuous, but I'm thinking there's a dollar play here. I was waiting for you to
100%.
say, I'm like, there's a dollar play. I absolutely, because at least in Michigan, I have a little bit, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but everyone has a bias. So if anyone
For
that
sure.
says like, oh, I'm unbiased and everything, no, no,
Not
everyone's
true.
going to have a bias. It's just, it is what it is. What families don't know in something this large, and what I mean by large is I'm talking about a dollar amount, whether it be from accumulated money or assets or from their existing cash flow. They better sit down with someone that has taken the time. And when people ask me, how am I different? Well, my advisor, Merrill Lynch, he's been there since, the Reagan administration and da 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 da. And knows it. Great, great. I like to have humor here, and sarcasm is my forte. Um, Fantastic. However, all this individual is recommending is for you to take risk in various fashions and put it into a product in which you are guaranteed to spend it all and it's going to be zero at the end, or there's going to be so many hoops and loops and penalties to get your own money back. Or let's take it a step further. I'm not picking on 529s, but at the same time I am. This is truly one of those Jekyll and Hyde financial vehicles. How it's traditionally promoted, I absolutely hate, and I will debate anyone, anytime on that. But yet, I just opened up one for my daughter 2 weeks ago. My youngest daughter, I should say. Why is that? I've taken the time to read the IRS tax code and the rule.
For
And
sure.
what is it really? A 529, just like an IRA or 4K, it's a tax wrapper. It's not the investment. Because you can have a vehicle inside either of those that I just mentioned. You can have like a CD or a money market or some sort of fixed rate of return investment, or you can have bonds, or you can have investments, or if you go the independent route, you can add in other asset classes. Cool. You can also own those outside of those tax wrappers. So what is happening is that everyone is taking their own money from their cash flow or from liquid assets and putting it into the 529 in which they have to spend. So colleges love you. Because do you know a 529 negatively impacts your ability to qualify for financial aid?
Interesting. I did not know that.
So I can sit down. I'm a huge baseball and softball. I don't care
I know you already talked about the Tigers a second ago.
Yep. I don't care if it's a 12-year-old Little League game or if I'm watching the Tigers snatch defeat from the jaws of victory this year. I'll watch it all. And see, now I just lost my train of thought. But with where I was going with that is with 529s, it's the details and it's reading the language. And colleges want you to, they advertise all the time. You see it all the time on TV or the local sports radio stations. I'll just use Michigan as an example. It's open up a Nuveen 529 plan. Well, Nuveen is an advisor sold 529, or you can get the postcard in the mail that's MESP, which is the state-run 5, where there is no middleman or financial advisor like myself that can get a cut. I recommend that folks do the MESP because first and foremost, I have data from a Morningstar website I can send to you, and you can post it in the link when this goes live. What was it? High 40s or low 50% of 529 plans sold have negative losses.
I was going to say, a lot of people just don't understand how they work, and it also it's so funny to me because I love that. I mean, I love education, and it's so hard, honestly, for me to have the conversations because I think that sometimes listeners are going to think to themselves, "Man, Jax talks about education all the time, but then she dogs on it." And it's not that I'm dogging on education; it's that I don't like that it's become big business, right? Education is supposed to be a vehicle to allow you to make well-informed, solid decisions. It is not supposed to be a tool to strip you financially. That's what it's not supposed to be. And unfortunately, I feel like the education system, that is what it has become, is a form to strip you because they say that they are non-for-profit, and I'm going to put that in air quotes, but they have billion-dollar endowments. And I did a whole solo episode where I did nothing but talk about exactly that. And they're not meeting their burden, in my opinion. So they're saying, they're selling a dream. And then quite often they're not delivering on set dream. I in my solo episode, I talk, and I don't share which of my daughters it happened with because I didn't want to throw the institution under the bus. But here you have the student body president who doesn't have a job. Literally, your whole goal of educating them through or whatever is to help them find employment. They're not going to college just simply for the fact of having a 4-year party, right? That's not what the intention is here. The intention is for them to get great information, to grow them up, to help them frame up their lives and figure out exactly what it is that they want to look to do, and then help them gainfully be employed, right? I mean, especially if we had to take out 80, 100 plus $1,000 to get the degree. I mean, you got to have some way to pay that sucker back. And so we got to make sure that this is the path. And so it frustrates me that a lot of programs and plans like 529 or whatever are sort of shoving traditional education down its throat because this is 2025, right? So maybe back in 1970, before the internet, yes, we had to we had to have education in very formalized settings and in these very specific ways. Now we have online options. We have so many different choices. Like you said, you can do the CLEP test or CLEP, whichever way you want to call it, which can help you go ahead and take a test to get rid of some of the different courses that you may or may not, so you don't have to take them, right? At a cheaper click. You have all kinds of choices and options, right? You have formal education, and then you can go find experts in the field that your child's interested in and pay $500 and let them take a course in that. See if they really love it. See if they're woken up about it or whatever, right? You can even do this when they're in high school to see, because let's be real, we all have those situations and we've all had those conversations with our children, and they're telling you they want to do something. And in your parent brain, you're like, that's crazy. You want to do what for a living? And because a lot of us don't necessarily have that same young mindset, we're thinking to ourselves, woof, they're never going to be able to make a living or whatever. But the truth is, there's a lot of things that they can make money at nowadays that 20, 30, 40 years ago, heck, even 5 years ago, you could not have made money at, right? And so I think a lot of times we are shoving things down everybody's throats, the society, and then our kids' throats included, where we really should be taking a step back and taking a pause and asking ourselves hard questions and asking them hard questions to be able to make sure that we're all on the right path for our own success and for their success too, both.
Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsors.
Imagine having the power to control your financial destiny, no matter where you start. Welcome to the Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform, where financial education is tailored to your unique journey. We cover everything you need, from basic budgeting and saving strategies to advanced investing and retirement planning. Learn at your own pace with lessons that match your level of experience. Whether you're a beginner or looking to enhance your financial knowledge, join our community of learners and benefit from shared insights and expert guidance. The Financial Mastery Simplified Course and Resource Platform equips you with the skills and confidence to take charge of your financial future. Ready to master your finances? Enroll in our courses today at the Financial Mastery Simplified Course and Resource Platform. Start your path to financial independence now.
Visit us at fms.tips and fms.college for more information.
Hello and welcome to PBJ Mortgage, where your home ownership dreams become reality. Today, we want to share why choosing PBJ Mortgage is the right choice for your home financing needs. At PBJ Mortgage, we're built on a foundation of values that drive us every day. Our commitment to educate, empathize, and empower our clients sets us apart in the mortgage industry. Our clients are at the heart of everything we do, and their success stories speak volumes. With years of experience, our team possesses in-depth knowledge of the mortgage programs, ensuring you receive expert guidance and the best possible rates. We offer a diverse range of loan options to suit your unique needs, including conventional, FHA, VA, and more. No matter your situation, we've got a solution. At PBJ Mortgage, we pride ourselves on providing personalized service. Our dedicated loan officers are here to guide you every step of the way, making the process as smooth as making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We understand that time is of the essence, which is why we've streamlined our processes for efficiency and convenience. Transparency and clear communication are paramount. You'll always know where you stand throughout your mortgage journey. Reach out to us today to set up a call to discover your options. If you're ready to make your home ownership dreams a reality, contact PBJ Mortgage today. Let us empower you during this exciting journey. Phone number 4693733 107 www.pbjteam.com. Visit our website or give us a call to get started. We look forward to helping you secure your future home. PBJ Mortgage, where home begins.
Thanks for your patience.
I totally agree. It's funny. There's two things that jump out at me with my perspective of what you just said. You mentioned 80, 90, $100,000, colleges sitting on large endowments. There's a rabbit trail there. And I would encourage the audience to take what I'm about to say and go research it for yourself. Don't believe me, especially right now with the climate that we're in. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, da, 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 da. There was a point in time in the past where private lenders, maybe even some of the ones that you deal with in your mortgage business, private student loans was a big thing in the past. Now, when I come to you and expose my financials trying to qualify for a mortgage, and you're like, yep, you're good. You know, you got the 750 credit score, you got the stark white New Balances,
So true.
or the Air Monarchs. My dad, one of the highest credit scores I ever saw, pristine Air Monarchs. But anyway, you loan me the money. I take a loan, it's debt on my balance sheet. You lend it out, it's an asset. Correct?
For sure. That is correct.
Okay. If you took the right accounting class in college, they would have told you that. And so it's what's an asset and what's a liability. Okay. The underlying item is the same, but depending on where you're coming from, it means different. So where I'm going with this is that private student loans were a big thing back in the day. At some point, and this is where my timeline is off, at some point the government came in and started cracking down and regulating on private student loans, how much you can give out, what are the rules. And the government stepped in and started offering more and more. Why? Student loan is an asset. And if you look up right now on any search engine, ChatGPT, whatever your preferred choice is, the number one asset the United States own is what? Student loan.
That's crazy.
It'll never go away. So you hear all this regardless of the political spectrum or what side of the aisle that you're on, and people get passionate, I would like to say, hey, both sides, let's open up the eyes, pull up the window shades, turn on all the lights, and let's take it back a step deeper. Okay? They're talking the same thing. They're just marketing it from a different channel to their audience base. That's it.
For sure.
That's it.
Well, and supposedly when government-backed student loans sort of came out, the idea behind it was a good one. They were trying to give the ability to people who may not have had the credit or the income or whatever, right? The opportunity to be able to go to college. And they felt like that had been limited. But I would like to also play that if you pay attention to when all that stuff started happening and then what happened after, the cost of education went up
You stole it.
astronomically. Like the numbers, the math is not mathing. I'm just telling you right now, like watch it. And then when the government basically took over more or less all student loans, they then stripped your ability to be able to discharge them through bankruptcy. So bankruptcy, for those of you who are not aware, is a way that if you are in financial straits, financial struggle, financial hardship, right? That you can then go, you can prove that up legally, right? And you can go to your creditors and say, look, in good faith, I tried to make payments. I now can't make payments because of X, Y, and Z, whatever that is, right? Whether it be a medical situation, a death of a wage earner, death of somebody in your household that made a bunch of money, like whatever it is. And then you have all that debt that is not, unless it's tied to like something that is like there's a lien against something, so like a house or a car, but the rest of it they can basically get rid of, right? Well, now that is not the case with student loans. You cannot ever get rid of them. So think about that for a minute, okay? And then I don't know how, and you probably don't understand how IBR works. We have to because of what I do for a living. So IBR stands for income-based repayment. And so what this means is that when you go and take out student loans, okay, so you take them all out, and then the government says, okay, so over a 10-year period, making you pay these loans, this is what your payment is, and your eyes go wide, and you say, holy crap, I can't afford to pay $1,500 a month, right, in student loan. Like I can't pay that. They say, okay, go ahead, submit all your tax returns and your money and whatever, and then we'll figure out what you can pay. Okay, so they say, okay, great. So what's $1,500? You can afford to pay $1,000. Okay, the $500 is getting tacked on the back end of the loan. Okay, like that's just getting tacked and it's just growing in size. Okay, in mortgage land, we call that loan negative amortization. It means that the time window will never be the time window. So if they said 10 years, it's not going to be 10 years anymore. And what everyone is banking on is what's called government forgiveness, meaning the government has said, well, guess what? Don't worry, Jax, don't worry. 20 to 25 years, whatever the number is, once you've reached that point and you've been diligently making your payment for all this time, we're going to go ahead and just forgive those. But the red tape around forgiveness is crazy. If you go read the details, your mind will be completely blown, which is why I am actually an advocate for being very careful about what student loans you take, okay? And making sure that you look at all the other options, whether it be your self-funding with either 529 or your own personal asset, some other kind of way, or you're using other kind of vehicles of debt, like you can do a HELOC or you can pull out of your house to do it this way. There is other choices and other options. You just need to understand and go in eyes wide open and look at the big picture. Okay, if we take out XYZ amount of debt, what's a payment going to look like on this? When will I be able to pay it off? Because if you're not looking at that and you're not having that conversation, I promise you, you will put yourself in a world of hurt moving forward financially. You just will.
I'm glad that you brought that up. I actually have, so to kind of unpack what you said there, I see this all the time. Now, I am counseling my clients who are my age. I'm 49. I have a pocket that are probably, most of mine are between 45 and 57. Okay. I am now starting to chat with the younger generation. Like I said, I have a 21-year-old and I have a 17-year-old. And there's a lot of early college graduates, and they're looking at that. And the IBR is so attractive because it is the most favorable calculation. Yes, I'm very
For
familiar.
sure.
I have a designation called educational loan analyst. So you had to go and take the test and be familiar with all the different, from, a standard 10-year repay to an extended repayment. What is the dollar amount that you can do? Okay, direct consolidation. Well, you got so many different hoops and loops, and you got to make sure that you sign on the dotted line on the third Tuesday in the full moon of a leap year. That that
No,
that
that's literally how it feels. The terms and conditions, you're like, wait, what?
there is, and the government's like, this is okay, we'll help you out. But then the government, like you said, there's retirees having liens against their Social Security income because of their student loans. But yet,
Yep, there sure are.
where are these people that say, I'm not saying that you do this. This could be like with your law background, one of those ethical debates over coffee. But if you didn't do the federal loans and you got as much private loans as possible, if you got yourself really upside down, like you said, you got chapter 10 or chapter, what is it, 10 or 11 bankrupt? You got bankruptcy options.
It's 7 or 13 if
That's
it's personal. It's 7 or 11 if it is corporate. But fun fact, hold on, fun fact, you got to be careful. Because so I hold private student loans. And you don't know this about my personal situation, but basically we had this crazy scenario happen where we had a very expensive luxury property we own. We had it under contract for sale. We don't know if it was the buyer, the buyer's agent, or the inspector. Somebody left a half-bath water running. It ran for 3.5 days, flooded the house, did over $400,000 worth of damage to the house, huge, giant, whatever. And it has created a hugely negative financial situation, a situation I never in my lifetime thought I would be in. But here I am, right, in this situation. The good news is that I understand a lot about money, and so I understand what my options are. So my husband and I, because I actually went to law school, took bankruptcy law actually in law school, so I kind of understood it a little bit. We actually had a conversation with the bankruptcy attorney, trying to see what the options were, if this was something that would make sense, because we live in Texas. There's a lot of protectionary mechanisms surrounding cars and houses in Texas if you do file bankruptcy. So we're looking at this as an option. We go through that process, and we had a conversation about my private student loan with the bankruptcy attorney because we're trying to figure out if it would be dischargeable or not, because it is going to be a huge determining factor in whether or not it makes financial sense to do so, right? Because I don't see bankruptcy as financial failure like a lot of people do, and a lot of people tie that. I see it as a vehicle and an ability to potentially reset depending on what circumstance has transpired, right? With obviously some caveats that come if you choose to go down that path. So anyways, okay, great. Well, the challenge is the fact that they told us even private student loans, almost no judge will sign off to disperse that through bankruptcy. And I thought that was incredibly interesting because that is not what the law says at all. And I think it's very interesting that the judges are holding back on that.
So what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, now you have a judge that is entering their own subjective opinion as opposed to following the law. Is that correct?
I mean, kind of, sort of. I mean, I just think it's very fascinating and interesting having this conversation. And I haven't really dug into the law like I wanted to see like what the opinion is. But I want to be like, that is that's not a federally held loan. It's not held with the government. It is held with a separate entity, right? That is private. And so technically, it should be dischargeable via bankruptcy. But this is, again, where you need to just be very careful when you're taking out debt in any respect, right? Debt is a tool, okay? There's nothing wrong with debt on its face, right? Like there's plenty of people that vilify debt. It's kind of why I'm the anti-Dave Ramsey. I'm not over here telling you never have any debt, okay? That's not what I'm saying. I think that debt can be an incredibly valuable tool. The problem is you've got to understand what the strings are. No different than if you borrow money from a friend, there are strings attached to you borrowing the money, right? Like there are things that exist surrounding it. And so you just simply have to understand them. But yeah, it is a very interesting thing surrounding that. I thought, So again, you just have to be very, very careful because the truth of the matter is, and I mean, I know this is going to sound very conspiracy theorist, but there's a lot of truth to it. The people making the decisions and making the rules, they're the ones that are in the pocket of the big corporations. And I don't care what side of the fence you stand on. It's just the truth. I went to law school. It's like a very exclusive club. They're all a part of the same little group and the same, individuals or whatever. And they're really not looking out for your best interest. So you need to find local experts or experts that do have your best interest and that are going to give you information, because my aim, even with mortgage, like if you call me and you're like, okay, Jax, I want to do a mortgage or whatever, right? We're going to give you information. We're going to give you a little bit of an opinion based on everything you share with us about what you want and what you're looking for. But ultimately, we're not making that decision. Like my mortgage company stands on the principle of educate, empathize, empower. And there's a reason for that. I should never be making the choice for you. Never. That should never be my choice to make. And if you're going to any expert and they're making the decision for you, they're not empowering you to make the choice, there should be red flags all over that. That should never exist and never be the way that it is. It is not a good look at all in our space for that to be happening. And unfortunately, too many people right now are outsourcing their power. They're just saying, like, great, you're going to make all the decisions for me. That takes one thing off of my plate. And they just push it across the fence. Well, guess what? At the end of the day, when push comes to shove, when you're in the mess, are they coming to save you? Because the answer is no, right? If you take out a bad mortgage because I made the decision for you, they're not coming back to me and saying, well, Jax, you made me make a bad decision. Like, it's not on me, right? It's on you. And so that's why it's so, so important in any of these decisions that we're having a conversation about, that you've got to take the reins here, right? Because if you don't, and please understand, some of the decisions you make are not going to go according to plan. I mean, I am a perfect example of that with this crazy house situation, but it doesn't matter. Right? I went in eyes wide open. That is the point here. And that is what you should be doing. And that is what this entire conversation has been surrounding. And Brian, I'm going to let you have the final word and kind of share with people not only your last thoughts, but where they can find you and what kind of thing that you can offer. And I'm going to encourage people. We have something, and I'll make sure that we put it in the show notes, that basically is just a guide to help you start having conversations with your kiddos about this stuff. Right? If you want the advice of how you should financially plan, Brian is going to be your guy on that. That's somebody who's going to help you with that. If you want to understand how to be having conversations so we don't end up in a bad place, like that's something that we can help you out with and give you some construct and surroundings. But kind of take us home, Brian. Let us know last minute thoughts and then how they can connect with you.
Excellent. I enjoyed this thoroughly. We could go on forever.
We could, and maybe we'll do another episode and kind of dive deeper.
We could. The biggest takeaway that I want the audience to remember is that it is okay to say, I don't know something. We are in this environment right now where everyone's egos are this high and they don't want to say, I don't know, or I failed, or it's okay. And go seek out people. Talk to someone like me, okay? Go talk to someone else that says they do college planning. And then go back home with your spouse and have a debate back and forth as to, well, I like this person for this reason, or I didn't like Brian, or da 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 da, and critically think through this process, and then align yourself with a professional or a team or a firm that is in lockstep with what you want to do. Because the college planning atmosphere, you have cash flow, assets, employment. How much does the school cost, public and private? And I can go on for another 20 minutes. There's a lot of factors. And so you need to be able to give yourself a half dozen to a dozen questions where you can ask people, well, what's the answer to this? What's the answer? I'll probably create a guide that could be downloaded on the website. It's like a self-help for families. And take the time with your children right now when they are young, middle school, high school age, and coach them up. Okay. Talk about this all the time in the baseball, softball. Coach them up. Coach them up. You can take an average player and make them exceptional if you coach them up and you give them the right knowledge.
Absolutely.
And the education is lacking right now. It's all product focused. It's all product based. It's not strategy. There was something that said the tax code is only I'll mess it up. Let's say 400 pages, maybe it's 40, and the other thousands and thousands of pages is just okay, just read it. understand FAFSA or someone that knows FAFSA and CSS, how to minimize your costs, and educate you on the pros and cons of using every available asset that's out there. What will happen is that you will feel much more confident in your decision.
Absolutely.
They can reach me, folks that are interested in engaging a little bit further, essentialstrategies.net, essentialstrategies.net. They can go on there. There's a free guide. It's about 5 pages, plus or minus a little bit. Right now it's called the Annual College Savings. There's going to be a rotation on various topics. They can download it for free, no obligation of by any. If they would like to talk further, on every page, there's a button where they can schedule a time, 20-minute chat with me, where we can just see if what you're looking for and what I can provide fits, and do we like each other, or are we just not going to get along? And can I refer you to someone else that might be a better fit for what you're looking for?
Absolutely.
So those are the main 2 ways that they can reach out to me.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on and being a guest today. And definitely go, guys, and check out Brian. I mean, it is a rare thing to find professionals in our space that feel like I do, that, hey, if we're not a good fit, then I'm going to find somebody who is going to, be a good fit for you. And so I love that. And I love that heart. So hopefully you found this episode of Financial Mastery Simplified helpful. And we will see you again next week on another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified.